There he is, my brother from another mother, holed up in the
Mhm.
yurt of love. Man, oh man, Shevitz, we got a big docket today.
It's it we just should just think of this as, like, every week. Like, "Oh, we'll get an easy day where we can just, like, chat, goof off, whatever." And then, you know, Apple stuff, and then whatever was before then. It's so much. Just Apple alone.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
we should probably just dive right into it, huh? Merry launch day to all the murderous marauders marching through Marathon. This is episode 51 of the Geekoid podcast. And yes, we are recording on March 5th, which is launch day for Marathon. So shout out to all of our friends at Bungie. I was able to get in a few hours this afternoon playing today, and it's a lot of fun. I gotta say, it is crisp and the mechanics are wonderful. The matchmaking has been pretty solid. There's a bit of a steep learning curve, I will say, but aside from that, it's a lot of fun.
That's great. Did you see the 7-minute, music video they did?
I did. That was
So good.
so dope. I was
So good.
I,
And
I
it
was
gave
just
me even more backstory and understanding you're a mercenary that's implanting their consciousness into all of these different, robots. But you're still that individual. And at the very end, shifting of sides, because hey, in the end, you're a mercenary. I was like, oh,
yeah.
so good.
It was really cool how they kind of teased the end game. And it makes me want to play even more because it's like that's not something that we saw during the server slam, and it's certainly not anything you get really exposed to in the first few hours because you're just learning the ropes and getting introduced to all the different factions and everything. So it's going to take a while to get there, but man, I'm pumped to play more. We'll have more coverage of Marathon in the coming weeks as I get more of a chance to play with it, but Apple had, I mean, we're just gonna go right there because it dominated the airwaves. They launched new products on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and had some unexpected things in there as well.
Yeah, I was anticipating, I think, 4 products, and they announced five, six and a half.
Yeah, caught a lot of people off guard. Do you want to just go chronological order?
Yeah, I try to do it from kind of least to most. And so the first one is the new 17E. I did not anticipate this, but they added MagSafe. They added the A18 chip. So now all iPhones cross board have the latest and greatest chip. They doubled the storage from 128 to 256 gigs, and they kept it at the same price. Crazy.
Yeah,
And if I said A18, A18. So one step below, sorry. So it's not the A19. But still, it's really good. And they updated to the C1X modem. Not a lot to say. It's a nice entry level, but it's a little chip update and a better way to, charge it and have all your cool accessories. But it's a solid little $600 phone.
yeah. And when you and I were talking a couple days ago, I was throwing out the idea that, personally, I'm not too excited about this new phone. But as my son gets older, he's eventually going to want a new phone, and this would be perfect. I don't need to saddle him up with a brand new Pro right out the gate. But
No, or not even a regular 17 or 18 or whatever. I think this, the E, I think stands for probably economy or whatever, but this phone does dang near everything a regular iPhone does. So, but whatever.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it looks like my video just dropped, so
I see that. It's
it's
cute.
unfortunate.
I do see you though, or I hear you.
Yeah, we'll just keep going.
All right. So next up was the iPad Air. It got a few extra bumps from the previous one. So the previous one was the M3, which they used the M3 very sparingly over the last year or so. The M3 iPad Air was one of them that got that chip because they knew the M4 was coming and the M5 soon after that. So they did spec it up to the M4. Though, interestingly, while I was doing research on this, it is not the same M4 that's in the previous iPad Pro. This one has 8 GPU cores from 10 and 9 CPU cores from 10. So
Interesting.
that is interesting, right? But it does get the new N1 networking chip. So now you have Bluetooth 6 and Wi-Fi 7, which is better reliability. It'll be great for AirDrop, but also like any of your devices around your house. And the Wi-Fi 7 also works. What's cool about the Wi-Fi 7 is that that signal, compared to other signals, works with previous versions of Wi-Fi. So if you have a Wi-Fi 7, but like some of your devices are 6E or 6, it doesn't matter. The Wi-Fi 7 can envelop and take all of that.
Right.
One thing they did add to this that they did not have in the previous iPad Pro, unless you bought the crazy, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte models, is they upped the RAM from 8 gigabytes of RAM to now 12 gigabytes of RAM. So, and this is coming at like $400 less than the base M5 iPad Pro, which or maybe it's like $600 if you really spec it correctly. But it's it's a pretty like, if you want all the aspects of a powerful thing, but maybe, tandem OLED is not in your wheelhouse to purchase, or maybe Thunderbolt, 4 or whatever is in the iPad Pro right now is not viable for you, but you still want a really hardcore little portable workstation. The iPad Air still has a really good screen, has decent speakers. I don't usually use it in that way. I usually have Bluetooth speakers, and I have an MacBook now. But like, this can still be a really crazy good deal from binging, watching stuff, to playing video games, to actually getting some work done, and even more advanced video and photo and Blender. Like, this is nothing to slouch at.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's a solid machine, and I don't think most people who go out and buy iPad Pros need the pro capabilities. I mean, most people are not doing 8K video editing and making podcasts and whatnot. So the iPad Air honestly is probably what my own personal next device or next iPad will be, because I'll tell you right now, I do not use all the capabilities of the iPad Pro.
No, you and I have been debating, arguing, laughing, not laughing about like our stance on iPad or Apple products in general. And I used to be like, I want the biggest and I want the best. But also, like, I'm not someone who's going to try to keep it around for 10 years. I'd like to try to trade in, or sell every like 5 years. And now that I have the MacBook, I was using the iPad Pro primarily for everything. And so I did. At that time, I got the biggest and the best. And it did the job. But now I am very fortunate that I got a MacBook Air. And now that can really, truly be a secondary device. Also, people say it all the time. I'm going to agree with them. But you have iPad OS. Some of those apps are so great. It's so good. But to have the power of Mac OS and then a desktop experience where you can download whatever you want at your own risk, but also plugins and add-ons, those are things you can't do with even the iPad Pro. Let me use it. I think what now they're really kind of forcing you into, but like, it's a secondary device. It's a secondary screen, which is still cool with universal control and sidecar, but let it be your little handheld that you carry into your Jeep or Bronco, or, when you're going to a coffee shop, or, whatever. I think that's the cool thing about an iPad, and I think the Air does that in spades. I don't need all the speakers in the tandem OLED if color accuracy is still good, which it is on the iPad Air. And I'm shooting, videos at like 24 to 30 frames per second. I don't need 120. 60 hertz is still more than enough for me. And we talked about this the other day. These video game studios are still like, hey, if I can get 60 out of this, like we're primo. And reviewers are that's still like, if we can
Yeah.
get 60, because there's still plenty that are shooting 30. And it's like, oh God, can we at least just get 60? iPad Air does that.
Yeah. Both games are not pushing 120 frames
No.
on any device. So yeah, check out the new iPad Air. Solid device.
Next one, which was another shocker, was the Studio Display in the new Studio Display XDR. I did not see this coming. I don't know if you did.
I might have heard a rumbling here or there, but I mean, the studio displays are so expensive that it's never really been of interest to me. And really, these are designed for people who are at the top of the game doing color grading for film and really dialing in on the most finite aspects of video editing. But for
Yeah,
the
and
everyday consumer, you're not, it would be overkill.
if you use a laptop like any of the MacBooks, you want something that's going to be color accurate to also, whatever your laptop screen is showing as far as contrast and saturation, you want a monitor that can do similar. The Apple Studio Display absolutely does that. It's 100% accurate, which is crazy for me to still think about that. They have two. One is kicking in around, I think $1,600 ish. But it's very comparable to if you look at a BenQ or an Asus monitor at like 13 to 16. This is still in very much the same price range and actually gives you a bit more with new updated center stage cameras, new voice isolation microphones, spatial audio, that P3 gamut, so color accuracy,
I
and
think
brighter
that's
nits.
one thing that people don't realize when we talk about the Studio Pros is all the extra stuff that comes with it. Because when I think of a monitor, I think of just
The
putting
monitor.
the pixels on the screen, making them bright. And that's mostly what I care about because I have a studio microphone and a headset and all these other things for all the other aspects. But if you're looking for a one device package that does everything that you need it to, then yeah, it would be good for, I don't know, an executive in their big fancy office and their mahogany desk and plop it on there and go to town with your Zoom calls.
Yeah. One of the things when I was like looking up just different BenQs and Asus and whatever, a lot of their peak brightness only hits 400, 500 if you're lucky. The base display hits 600. So and then I think a peak if it's HDR at like 1,000. The Pro Display XDR, or no, sorry, Studio Display XDR, which replaced the very old, like 7 years now, Pro Display XDR, shaves about half the price. Does compromises to do that, but shaves half the price from like, I think it was like $6,000 for that display to now $3,300.
Yeah, it was insane.
So they shaved it in half, made compromises. Some of the compromises, well, actually, I think the only compromise that it did was it lowered it from a 32-inch, which is a pretty big display. I have one, and now I'm kind of regretting it after a few years. It's a big display. Like I bought a bigger table because the screen was so big, I needed to push it back 6 inches. And it's still pretty big. So big. So now it's 27-inch, which has been a pretty standard size in high-grade monitors anyway. However, I feel like that's the only difference it has because they went to mini LED, which has like over 2,300 different dimming zones. It's a 5K monitor. It's 120 hertz finally. The old one was not. It was 60. And this thing at HDR will peak at 2,000 brightness. Wear shades, folks, if you're doing HDR content.
That is
That
really
is
bright.
crazy. And its standard SDR is like 1,000 or over. Some maybe like 1,600.
What HDR10 I think is 1,000.
It's really nuts. Plus they upped and this was across board. So like I said, speakers and mics and camera. Camera was also, I did not realize, in the old Pro Display XDR. So now you have center stage, 12 megapixel that is in my phone, the 16, not the new 24 or 18 or whatever it is, and the 17. But it's great. I think I have it right now in the M4 MacBook Air. So it's really good. I really like it. And for the first time, because that was 7 years ago, we now have Thunderbolt 5 ports on the back. So that's even less clutter across your workstation. You can plug
nice.
the MacBook to the studio display. And not only do you have a 5K display, but it's also charging up to 120 watts back to the MacBook. So it's doing two things all at once. And one of the Thunderbolts is an out. It's an in-out, and the other one is an in. So you can daisy chain with just USB Thunderbolt cords up to 4 monitors, which is off of one MacBook.
It's kind of nuts.
That's kind of nuts, dude. So yeah, it's a lot of money, but the normal studio is extremely comparable and a little bit better than some of the competitors. And then this new Studio Display XDR is just killer, man.
Yeah. So I still don't think I'm going to get one, but maybe.
No. I wouldn't mind getting, again, the Studio for, half that price for 12, 15, whatever. And if it's on sale for 12, that'd be a killer deal. Because it still has 2 Thunderbolt 5s and 2 more USB-C 3.0s. So, it would be pretty killer.
Yeah. Well, moving right along. Yes.
Moving right along.
This one absolutely caught me by surprise because the M4 MacBook Air only came out late last year. Mid October, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes. And it was originally priced at $1,000, so $999.
Yeah.
So this new one comes out
for
$750 was base. After talking with you and doing research, I upped the RAM and I upped storage, which upping the storage gave me also the unbinned 10 CPU, 10 GPU M4. And that's pretty much all I did. So probably $200 more on that. So $700, $800, $950 before tax. So this new one, and this is across board. So if you don't know about the M5 chip from the M4, this is a 20% bump in CPU performance and a 30% increase in GPU, which really has me intrigued as far as video editing and then playing around with Eric, as far as games and graphics. So this also now adds the neural accelerators that everybody's hyped for as far as AI, but it also does help with GPU. All Macs, MacBook Air Pros, and the other one, which we'll talk about, all get the new N1 networking chip. So Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6. This was something that was a shocker to me. I guess I missed it in the M5 Pro laptop, but they updated the SSDs that are in all the laptops now. And now the read and write speeds are double, I guess, what I have in my M4 MacBook Air, which kind of upsets me a little bit. The MacBook Air comes with Thunderbolt 4s, which I'm still rocking right now, which do totally fine. And the price tag is now from $1,000 to $1,100. However, with that, they also did this crazy revamp, and so they upped the storage across the board on Airs and Pros. And so now instead of 256, you get 512. After doing research, what's nuts is that an M4 with 512 is $100 more than this M5 with 512 starting. So you are saving $100 if you do that, which is nuts. However, the catch is that this new M5 does have a new bin chip, so 2 less GPU cores. So if you want to get it back up to like a 10 CPU and 10 GPU or whatever, you'll need to update that. So in the end, it's kind of a wash. It's even across the board. So a spec bump, but I think this new M5 chip is pretty darn legit. We haven't seen anything about the M6, but if you're buying now,
Oh gosh, yeah, just go get it.
dude, this M5 chip will run circles on everything Eric and I talk about, AI workload to Blender to now video games. Like this M5 chip is legit. And throw in, 24 gigs RAM instead of 16. And I don't know if you future-proofed it. I think that's a little overstatement at this point. But I think it definitely helps you with the AI and, any other like more intensive tasks working with Final Cut Pro or...
Yeah, we'll get to be talking about RAM here in a little bit because the last item on the list is a little bit contentious. I have some ideas, but
Right.
But you know what? They also announced a MacBook Pro with the M5 Pro and M5 Max. And man, like all the nerds on X are just frothing at the mouth right now. And it's ridiculous. These machines just look so incredibly powerful. And if you want the best bang for your buck when it comes to performance and your ability to do stuff in the AI stack, like on the move, like this is it. This is where you go.
Yeah, the spec bumps are so tremendously like out of reach for me. Like these are spec bumps that just researching it was like, let's see, if you spec the Air with 10 core CPU and 10 core GPU, you can spec the M5 Pro chip to 18 CPU and 20 GPU. That's pretty good. Also, memory bandwidth between like swapping, sharing, all that is 153 gigabits per second on the Air. The speed and memory that this thing is computing at with the Pro chip is 307 gigabytes. And the
Dang.
Air maxes its RAM at 32 gigs. I did 24. The Pro maxes out at 64 gigabytes of RAM. But that does not compare to the Max chip. The Max chip is like, dude, you got to be working for NASA. You got to be doing something that is so fucking nuts, man. The CPU, so they kept the CPU as the Pro, which I thought that was interesting. So it wasn't like, they basically, from what I'm understanding, is 18 core CPU is going to be more than enough for whatever you have to do. But more advanced engineering and all that require more GPU. The Max chip goes to a crazy, where am I at? The Max chip, same 18 CPU, but goes up to a crazy 40 core GPU from 20 and doubles the memory bandwidth from 307 to 614 gigabits per second.
I mean, if you're looking to run some crazy workloads, this Max chip has got it all. I mean,
and like I said, the Air, so you can see it pretty consecutively. So the Air maxes out at 32 gigs, the Pro maxes out at 64, and the Max is configurable up to 128 gigabytes of RAM.
Which
now
there'll be nothing compared to the updates coming to the Mac Studio later this year. But for
with
now,
the Ultra, well, if it's anything, the Ultra will be double that. It'll times 2. So then you're talking
it'll be quadruple.
200 and
they
56.
Here's my prediction. I am going to predict right here and now that Apple is going to release...
You're wrong. You shave your head.
I will absolutely shave my head if I'm wrong. Apple will release a Mac Studio with the M5 Ultra with RAM configurable up to 1 terabyte. So 1,024 gigs.
What? That's You're crazy. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
the current Mac Studio, you can get the M3 Ultra with 512, and that last jump that you go from 512 to 1 terabyte, you can run some really serious large language models on that.
Yeah, it's next level. Like, I don't even like. I can't even fathom that.
So, I mean, here's the thing, like, people are buying multiple maxed out Ultra Studios and then daisy chaining those to get all the unified memory and run LLMs on them. But if you can just do it with one, man, that would be something.
That would be something. Oh, starting price did go up. However, again, and they've done this in the past, they raised pricing to $16.99, so $1,700, which I think is only $100 previous from last M4 Pro and Max and all that.
All things
However,
considered,
now,
that's not bad.
And they did it again. So your base used to be 512 for pros, but with all of these increases in CPU, GPU, and RAM and everything, Thunderbolt 5 instead of Thunderbolt 4, they're giving you starting 1 terabyte.
Yeah, which if you're getting this kind of machine, like, why would you not get 1 terabyte?
Yeah.
So
Now the Air between Air and at least starting Pro and Max, I think it's like $400 difference between Air and Pro, and then $600 difference between Air and Max. So also not crazy. It's where you start getting in and adding accessories and upgrading that all of a sudden it gets fucking nuts.
Yeah. So I mean, you could definitely spec these out and spend about $10K on a machine.
Yeah, that Max, holy God, easy.
Yeah.
But $16.99 for even the base, which I don't even think that starts at 16 gigs of RAM. I think that starts at 24. So that's pretty legit, actually. And then that's the 14-inch model, which is technically 14.2 or 14.6. Yeah. And along with that, folks, like, I've got 2 USB-C ports, but I still need a dongle. With the MacBook Pros, you have 3 or Thunderbolt 5 instead of 4 ports. That alone is nice, just so I could have something on the left side and one on the right side, but all of my ports are on the left side. And then it's got fans because, hey, these things get hot, unless you want to put thermal tape and stuff like that.
Yeah. So really exciting stuff. Rachel just got her hair and nails did yesterday, so I think I have justification for going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's totally a price that's comparable across the board. Yeah. Yeah. One that, like, I think is I mean, you kind of mentioned it in a weird way, but this was the mic drop. Everybody was anticipating this. They were anticipating also to be more like $700 or whatever, but they just dropped a brand new, from the ground up, aluminum chassis and all, not plastic, MacBook Neo with an A18 Pro chip, which is in my iPhone 16 Pro Max. So it is not that old.
And not slow either.
Not slow. And, I give, little hints and whatever further down in my chicken scratch of notes here.
Your word vomit of a description.
God, it was so hard, man. I was like, I really needed like all day to write a better blah. But
Apple has a marketing website.
Yeah, but I don't want to copy and paste. So this it starts at $600. Let's just start there. So $600. And if you have any kind of education discount, you're a teacher, you're a student, whatever, or you can access that. This is a $500 MacBook that is running Mac OS. You could download whatever files you want to in programs. Be careful, because it's the lowest of the low. But yes, and doing more research, a lot of people have been comparing this A18 Pro to just a skosh better than the M1 Mac chips. However, this has 4 gigahertz CPU speed, equating to M3's CPU. It only has 2 performance cores with, no glass or titanium like on my phone currently, which is nothing but a conductor, not or an insulator. And so with this bigger aluminum chassis, which is also a better conductor of heat, I don't see this having, I said it in my notes that I don't see it having a thermal throttle, but I don't see it having a thermal throttle like it does in the iPhone 16 Pros,
Oh, absolutely
which
not. So, I mean, you just go by the laws of physics and the surface area with which it has the ability to dissipate heat. I mean, you can actually probably run this thing faster than you do your iPhone because you're less concerned
absolutely,
about battery because you have a larger battery and people will be more accustomed to having it plugged in. You're not going to be using it all day, and if you are, you're going to have it plugged in. So you're probably running it at a higher throughput, and yeah, it's probably going to be very surprising how fast it is.
yeah. They made some compromises, but I don't think, again, at this price point of $600 or seven if you get the 512 gig, which also includes Touch ID, which comes automatically in other MacBooks. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't get 256 gigs. The OS system itself, it would take me a minute to go find it in settings, but it takes up a pretty good chunk of that 256. So a 512. So this is a $700 laptop or $600 with the education discount.
512 is so or sorry, 256 is such a small drive. I'm surprised they even made that as an option for a
I am too. I am. I'm assuming that they didn't want to get into like 1 terabyte territory or then try to shave even a quarter, so a half of a terabyte,
well, maybe
or
what
not
it
a half,
was
but a
is that
quarter of
they
that.
just wanted they wanted to boast that they had this super low entry point, but realistically, you're gonna get the upgrade.
Right. Two other, yeah, well, three other compromises is the monitor is still 500 nits, which is the new standard for just even regular high end laptops. Um, so that already beats Chromebook and Microsoft on that. But it does not have P3 gamut. So if P3 is like a color accuracy to like Adobe's RGB. When you look at the screen and you're doing photo editing or video editing, you know that if you up contrast or saturation, it's going to be pretty darn accurate to when you export it and publish it onto YouTube or, put it on SSD and hook it up to your TV.
Yeah, but
So it
here's the
doesn't
thing:
have that.
if you're getting this device,
So I have a hot take to that.
okay,
I have a hot take that I'll say in a minute. The other thing, no backlit keyboard. I'm not really worried about that. You shouldn't be looking at a 13-inch screen
yeah,
in the
yeah.
goddamn dark anyway with backlit keys. Um, and the third one, this one kind of hurts a little bit. I think they could have done at least a Thunderbolt 1, but the charge port is USB-C, which I like. They didn't add MagSafe, which I really like. And the charge port is also a USB 3.0. Now, that's comparable to the Air or I think even my iPhone. So the speeds aren't horrible, but compared to Thunderbolt, it's like 10 to 40, in comparison. The other USB-C port is pretty atrocious, and I wish they would have added 3.0. However, I think with the A18 Pro chip, they probably couldn't, or again, this was a cost savings, but the other USB-C is a 2.0 port. So you could still charge things and whatever, but I wouldn't try to do data transfer in a 2.0 port. Um, it's either not going to work or you're going to have your laptop
you're,
in the
you're
dining
gonna
room
look like the
table
crypt keeper
like all night long.
waiting.
You're going to go to sleep so that when you wake up, it like finished transferring, which I do remember doing that in the past. So, but overall, I think with this bigger aluminum housing with Mac OS, The one thing I haven't said yet is, and I'm trying to get to it, I think 9 out of 10 things that you do on this MacBook, you're not going to see a difference. Creating a PowerPoint, doing project management, using Asus or Asana or any of those things, Microsoft, Google, whatever, you'll be perfectly fine. And I think coming from an old iPad Pro that had an H16Z or X or whatever, I think you'll still be able to do Lightroom stuff. I think you'll be able to do LumaFusion. You have a company that
But this isn't a
builds
device
the
targeted at people doing that.
No, but for high school and college who want to learn, and the parents are probably going to buy it for them, or the kids don't have a lot of money, this is still a device that I think you could dip your toe in, and then in 2 to 5 years on light work, you could still do.
Okay.
Remember, the iPhone 16 Pro can shoot at 4K, 120 frames per second. That is a lot of frames, bro.
Touche.
Meaning the media engines in that chip can encode 4K, 120 frames per second. So
Okay.
you probably
Yeah.
would have to do proxies. You couldn't just like dump it. You'd have to do a proxy. However, I've been watching videos on Final Cut, even with the M4 and M5. The proxies used to be like this whole rigmarole and it was so disastrous. But Final Cut almost like Final Cut already works great on MacBook because it's all Apple. And then you throw the footage in there and it's just nice and smooth. With a proxy, even if you have only like 16 gigs RAM, this only has, this only has 8 gigs of RAM. If you do a proxy file, you could absolutely still do the footage, have it be pretty darn color accurate, not like crazy, but like I bet you could get real close that nobody would care once it's on YouTube. And
What? YouTube compresses the shit out of it anyway, so.
yeah. But I think for color accuracy, once it's on a big screen, big 4K screen, yeah, I think this will actually do better than everyone's thinking. And I think they forget, again, what we can do on this phone and what we could do on the older iPads. And I was working off something that was like behind the M1 chip. And this is like comparable to like M1 and M3. So at this point, I'm just saying it's basically like a baby M2. Yeah, 3D printing. I think, you know what? You got some 3D files and you got your cool $700 goofy 3D printer. Go for it. Yeah, I think this will be legit. This is the one that you buy your family, and it's the kitchen, the laptop. Yeah, it is the kitchen or the living room or the dining room table. I think this is the laptop for that.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to talk about the elephant in the room?
I thought the Neo was kind of the elephant.
Well, I think the elephant is namely the 8 gigabytes of RAM.
It's gonna be crazy. I don't know. I thought maybe they would at least up it to 12 since it's gonna be a MacBook. They just upped the iPad Air to 12. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about that because Mac OS is not a small system. And so if you're somebody who likes to have 20 tabs, which I have never been one of those people, I do like 5, but I do have like currently, like if I look at all my little black dots, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, technically 9. I've got 9 apps open in the background. Even though I close them, they're still open because it's a Mac thing. I'm still used to Windows. So I close it, it's done. Get out of here. So if you do even more than that, if you're then doing PowerPoint and all that jazz, yeah, then 8 gigabytes is not going to handle it.
So
or
if
they take iPad OS ideas where then it pauses it heavily and shelves it, then listen, if I see a 26.4 update and it talks about the MacBook Neo come March 11th, then I'll know that they were also thinking about like, oh, how's this 8 gigabytes going to run?
So I was thinking about this, and originally when the announcement came out, I was among the group that was saying, "What are you thinking? Only putting 8 gigabytes of RAM into this device? Like, this is madness. Like, you won't even be able to run Chrome, which you may not be able to." And maybe that's part of the play is Safari will be so optimized for the environment that it's going to be running in that
Mm.
you'll have no option but to use Apple
Safari.
specific software on your MacBook, which is kind of a brilliant move. But at the same time, the A18 chip is really, really fast. And I think they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to optimize memory usage of what's in RAM and then also offload things, put things to sleep. I was really afraid because we have the last Intel MacBook Pro as our
What
like
year is that?
daily driver. I was trying to look it up. I couldn't figure it out. It's and that thing is so painful to use, and I think it has 16 gigs of RAM. And I'm realizing now that like it's not an apples to apples comparison at this point. Like that that device is just it was a Frankenstein at the time. I mean I did buy it as an open box, so I did not spend a ton of money on it. But you know what? I'm gonna pick one of these up. We're gonna take it for a spin, and I will report back. I'm a little bit bullish on how good it's going to be. And here's the thing: I don't think Apple would release a product if it wasn't going to be a smash hit
I agree. And you
performance
not
wise.
like here's something I was just thinking while you were talking. By the way, the last one was as of Gemini. Thanks, Gemini. Mac Pro 23 transition to silicon began in 2020.
So it might be 6 years old. That tracks.
Yeah. Um, Something I was thinking of too. We've been using our iPads as these kind of devices. However, you and I have been buying Pros, which are a little like overkill for what we're doing. And I think this doesn't kill the iPad. I think there's lots of really cool things, especially that the drawing and the, again, project management and freeform. If you want like an open map, like you can't get those things. Not yet. But if you spec out even a base iPad and you want a decent storage, and I don't think that gives you as much capability as this one, either as far as chips, and then you add on a keyboard, I think even the base iPad is twice as expensive as this.
Yeah, which
And
is
that's not Air, that's not Pro, that is a base and 13-inch because 13-inch. So I would, up it to that instead of 11-inch.
so I
Dude,
think they're doing a really good job positioning this device, and I think the Chromebooks and the Surfaces of the world are going to have a tough time competing because
yeah.
Apple has that premium brand luster to it. And if it feels as good as it looks, just with the aluminum housing and everything, I think
Yeah. Crazy. Again,
it's
like I can't believe that they went aluminum housing. And this is a totally new housing. It is a totally different shape and feel to the Air and to the Pros. They made this from the ground up. It has new speakers, side speakers, which again, like, I don't know how that's gonna work. My Air is on the back and it reverberates off of the monitor. And then if you get a Pro, the speakers are directly next to the keys and they fire straight out at you. However, they are saying that this will create a spatial audio. But again, I'm not a big one for the audio on any laptop or iPads. That's why I have earphones, or that's why I have a TV and two HomePods that are delicious and they sound just amazing. So yeah, yes, to your point, man, I think this laptop is crazy. And I think maybe because your wife works at a university, you could get the $100 discount.
Oh yeah, I've already looked into it.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. All right, so what color? You have highlighter yellow, which actually everybody is like jonesing
Highlighter
over.
yellow? Is that what you're
Like,
calling it?
that's what I'm calling it. It's like citrus. I don't know what they called it, but it is bright and bold. Also, all the
The,
keys.
the
So
internet is
dumb.
calling it piss yellow.
Oh, I don't think it's that bad, but it is. I mean, I like how ostentatious it is, but it is pretty.
You would not catch me dead with that.
They have
color.
a very, they have the classic silver, which is what I usually get.
Yeah.
And then they have
There's
a blue that's really nice, and they have a pink that is. It's pretty cool looking. I dig the pink. It's very soft.
Yeah, I mean, this will primarily be for Rachel, so she might go for the blush. I'm gonna run some colors by her and not tell her what they are or what it's for, and see where she goes with it.
Yeah, I think this is a good call. So you're looking at all this stuff like I am. You're dreaming. Replace your tablet. But you have an M1 Pro. You replace your tablet. What do you replace it with? I think you already mentioned it. I just want to hear it again.
You know, I think this is gonna be really weird. Every day I've been thinking about this since they've announced all the new products, and it keeps changing. What is my new configuration? What is my everyday carry? And honestly, I think I might want to just go with an Air, like a small Air with cellular.
Yes, with that new C1X chip. Yes.
Because that for me, I find myself working out of my car on the road a lot, and most of the time I can successfully tether my phone to my Corsair laptop, but
Yep.
it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
And
I did
if
it.
I could just
I did it for years at a nonprofit. Like you would get a Dell or an HP. That's,
yeah,
which again, that might get replaced now, as this
ooh,
might be the new work laptop.
that's an interesting
So
concept. I didn't even think about that. Whew.
yeah, everybody buys whatever, either a cheap Lenovo, they never go ThinkPad, but a cheap Lenovo, not ThinkPad, or Dell and HP. And
I mean, I've
this
got a
would be
shitty HP for work, so
yeah, that's all I've ever had for work. But if I could have a little iPad for exactly what you were talking about, like having cellular connection that is legit and something that I can work off of in the car, or again, that's where then like I could see myself on the couch or whatever. And then, though the Air is no behemoth, but it's a more powerhouse. So then I sit down and can do stuff, or come out here into the gazebo outside and do something like this. Like
I mean,
that's a cool combo.
yeah, for me, the way I'm using it is I'm using it to manage a lot of things that are not on the device. So I'm orchestrating a series of agents, and I'm saying, "Hey, go do this, go do that." But those are running on servers in Google Cloud and in Microsoft Cloud, and so I don't need the compute power on the device. I don't need to be running at 120 frames per second or hertz.
Right.
It just, like, all I need is connectivity and something that doesn't slow me down. And the Air is really starting to feel like that. And for all the times I want to just, I don't know, play Hearthstone, I can do that too. I don't need Hearthstone running at 120 frames per second.
No.
I will say it looks beautiful at 120 hertz because I do have that experience currently, but I don't need it.
Right. And yeah, same. Like my 13-inch iPad was great at its time when I bought it for what I was doing, because I was going to do everything. iPhone, and I still pretty much do. Like, but I needed a strong workhorse that could do all kinds of things, from me drafting out, studio lights to a setup and all that. But I could have done that on an Air. And now with this M4, though it's bend down, I think it's a realistic bend down for a tablet, where I will still see probably 3 times the effectiveness, the power of
The
this
power.
compared to my old iPad Pro uh, and 11-inch. I agree with that too. Like, I'd like to have it as a second monitor, but throw it vertically and it's just one screen, or it's holding a PDF, because the Mac still does split screen and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like, if money and time was right, yeah, the Air would be the next thing. And it still does Apple Pencil Pro, which I do love because I do like to still draw and draft things. Yeah, it doesn't have. It has a laminated screen, so it's not like the old iPads or the OG iPads where it's not laminated. It's two screens, and it has a workhorse chip that, if I still want to get even video editing done on an 11-inch, I can absolutely do that.
Yeah. And you know what? I keep going to the iPad Pro because I have this fantasy that, oh, I'm going to get back into 3D modeling and 3D sculpting, and those are the applications where you really want to have that high end power. But I just need to have a come to Jesus moment and realize that that's not in the cards for right now. And if I ever
Yeah,
find myself doing more than an hour of that a week, then maybe I need to reconsider. But I'm not there. So
and I still think the iPad Air with this bend down M4 chip will still get you 3/4 of the way. And then I see you as somebody that, once you've done that much, it doesn't have all the capabilities that then Mac OS would have. Then you would transfer that to then a MacBook or Studio or Mac Mini to then finish it off on then a 27-inch and a bigger screen and all that kind of stuff. So that's where, like, I've dumbed down the iPad from Pro to an Air to having fun, sitting down, using the pencil, drawing, and then when you're ready to do that serious final 90%, that final 10%, sorry, then that's when you transfer to something like that. But
yeah,
the iPad Pro has too many limitations, even as, Thunderbolt and better speakers and tandem OLED, and a not bend M5 chip. It still has enough limitations within the OS that you would still need to really go to a MacBook to finish it off.
yeah. So I think that rounds out our coverage of Apple this week. And what a week it's been.
It was good. It was way more than I anticipated.
Yeah,
I'm very
there
I
were
will
some
say
surprises.
I'm very interested in the non XDR, the normal studio display, especially when I compared against other monitors that are out right now that are out of my price range. Like $1,000+ is nutso for me. But when I compare it to other competitors, in that it's hitting the same mark and beating it in other ways, I like that's pretty cool. And then also, um, I really am enamored by that M5 chip in the MacBook Air. That just gives that little extra bump to GPU and neural acceleration.
But
That
but you don't need it.
and a
You're gonna
and
be
a,
good. Have
and a
you noticed any
better
slowdowns?
SSD. Only when I do 360 footage,
Oh, yeah.
but it's like a second. It's a total second of thinking what I'm doing, and then it just keeps on going.
Okay.
So no, no, no. Honestly, like, no, you're totally right. This M4 Air, like, I was watching videos and they were like, let's push it. And I should give him a free
Shout
thing
out.
on here, shout out, but I can't remember his name right now. He's the guy that puts everything on fire in his
Oh, that
starting
guy.
videos, and then he has the donut and the Dunkin' thing all the time. Anyway,
It's like, this guy really likes fire.
I love this guy so much. He's in Florida. But he was doing nutso things with the M4, which is the one I bought. And part of the reason I bought this was because of him. I bumped it up to 24 gigs of RAM, bumped up to 512. I have an SSD, a T7 Samsung, and he was doing things in Final Cut Pro with, like, magnetic mass and like FX that had like 5 layers within each like effects thing going on behind him. And the MacBook Air just soaked it up. Did it get hot? Yes, because small chassis, no fan, but it didn't stop. And even in rendering and export, I think it was only like 2 to 5 minutes slower than an M4 Pro with a bigger chassis and a fan. So if nobody knows about the Air and the capabilities that this little thing has, go buy yourself a dongle and like live the Apple life like back in the day. Go buy some thermal tape and, you know, slap it up against the underside, and then I think your thermal throttle goes down by 50%.
The wife and child are quickly approaching the front gates. We got a lot more to cover still. Do we want to
This
hit
is all-
pause, or do we want to then pick it up tomorrow?
We can do that. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll just say intermissione, and I can get my video working again because it's got to be really weird for Jared to just talk at me and all he sees is a backwards imaging edge.
I'll be
webcam.
honest, like I keep Riverside at this small little minute square because Discord, for God's sakes, Discord, update your thing so that it makes more of a half. That's the only thing. I wish iPad, it makes it a full half screen, and Discord makes it like a 3/4 screen. So it makes it real odd. So your little screen right now is like just a little bit bigger than my thumbnail. So even if you did have video on, I would just see your head bob.
Okay, cool. Well, let's pick this up tomorrow. There's probably even going to be more news because I just saw something come across my feed. Xbox Project Helix. Apparently, their new Xbox has a code name.
No, there
It
might
has
be
a-
a rumor about Game Pass too. They might be trying to adjust that already.
Maybe. Yeah, we're gonna continue this party tomorrow, and you as a listener will not notice any difference because it's just gonna be seamless because we're that good.
Yeah, it'd be like Wayne's World. We just do a little like transition.
I'm totally gonna use that in the editing. All right, I'll catch you later, brother.
Later.
End of transmission.